Wemppa, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome to the group. Welcome everybody to the session. Thank you so much as well, Wemppa, for joining us.
Thanks for the invitation.
You're very welcome. Well, I'm gonna go straight in. I'd like to introduce, Wemppa Koivumaki. He's a Finnish music industry executive, and he's been around for the last 30 years basically, and he's been CEO of Music Finland, Sony Music Finland from 2012 to 2018, and before that, he was with EMI. But for me, I've known Wemppa basically for a couple of years, and he's not just a music guy. He's an entrepreneur. He's a family guy, but he's also a great guy in general.
Thanks, Ian. That was a bit too much. That was very heavy. I started 89 at EMI Records as a product manager. Before that, I was a musician, but I realized that I didn't have enough talent to make a career. Quite quickly, I was promoted to marketing director and then CEO. And I was running EMI for 11, 12 years about. After that, I think it was in 2009, 2010, around that time when it was obvious that EMI is gonna either bankrupt or go bankrupt or get sold to somebody. So I decided to start my own label. Started a label called Ratas Music, which I did for about 2 years until Sony came in and bought my label. And at the same time, they wanted to also to hire me to run the whole thing. Is it too late to get into music or back into the music you're in your 30s? Absolutely not. Good example of that is an artist called Sia. She wanted people to concentrate on the music and don't think about that she's a woman who's over 40, which for in the pop music business is like, no fucking way. A woman over 40 in pop music? Forget about it. So if that answers your question, who cares what the age is if you have something to give, if you have something that people can relate to? We have so much more opportunities to get visibility nowadays than before, but at the same time, that's also a huge downside because so many people are trying to get visibility. You're like bombarded with different kinds of messages from whether it's some social media place or whatever, different medias. So it's really hard to get through that. The funny thing about social media, what I've learned, the masses, the people, they sort of some kind of a sense that they sense that when something is fake in social media, that you have to be real in one way or the other. If it's all manufactured, forget about it. I've been managing this one artist who's fairly big in social media, and he was doing all these things on TikTok, which were like carefully planned. What kinds of updates was coming like every 3 days or something, and they were getting like okay traction, like a few hundred thousand likes and followers. Then one day he did, out of the blue, he didn't plan anything. In Finland, we have this in the wintertime, people love to go to an icy water from time to time. So what he did was he was in this on a beach during the winter, and they had made this sort of place where you can swim and for a few minutes and then come back so you don't freeze to death. So he had this idea. He just put his phone there and got his swimming trunks, jumped in, and of course came out again because he didn't want to die. And nothing special about it. But that suddenly that got like 2-3 million views because that was something that he did ad hoc, something stupid, something funny, and it was real. It wasn't planned. I think that's a really great example of how people really do sense, what is real, what is tangible, not something that has been planned in some social media engineer somewhere on his desk. Like people have a sense of how to know what is real and what is not, which is in a way is I think it's great. I think it's brilliant that people have that sense. There is that other side. Of course, there's always been artists that don't want to share anything, not
Yeah.
even their face. It's like you want to be an enigma in a way, and that creates a sort of a mystery. And from time to time, that works as well. Do you need a label? I mean, that's number one. Do you need an able label? I would say that in general, this does not relate to everybody. But in general, I would say that, the main reason to sign with a label is so that you can actually concentrate on just your art and nothing else. To make that work, you need a team that's really reliable, and there's a trust. And that's a tricky part, because to find the team, the right team, is how do you find the right people who are passionate and believe in you and your music? That is the key by far. More and more, again, we're coming into this sort of phase where, I mean, they sign less and less directly. What they do a lot, they have these sub labels, or they have independent contractors that they have this what is called like a first option deal. So if a small label, which is totally independent, has something really, really great, then maybe probably they would have some kind of relationship with one of the big labels who will have this first option to sign the artist further if it starts to work. So like I said, so less and less direct signings are happening, and especially in the next couple of years you're going to see a lot of this more and more. So a big part of the roster for big labels comes from smaller companies or production companies or producers, etc., rather than direct signings. Of course, you can do a lot of things if you have the money. I'll give you an example. At the moment, the labels, especially the big labels, are using, I think there are numerous companies, but there's two that I know of that are really big. One is called Creed, and the other one is called Butterfly Effect, where they actually, we call them a bit more like social media engineers. They can make miracles in the digital environment. And there are a couple of more, but also in the labels, they have, especially when we're talking about streaming. I just, for example, at Sony, I think I had at some point, I have four people just doing the sort of streaming engineering or streaming marketing or promotion, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure they have some fancy names for their titles, but what they did is that they are like hooked into the machines. When you have something, especially when you have a new track coming out, like let's say you have a track coming out on Friday. So in a couple of hours, a few hours after the release, you start getting all kinds of different kinds of data. There's a lot of things, for example, what they are looking at. I mean, I'm sure there are new names for all of this, but was calling like love effect, like effect, stuff like, I mean, you could see from the data, like if there's a new track, how many people have actually put it on a playlist, on their personal playlist, how many have been added to company playlist, how many, and what's happening with the tracks, and they can see like hour by hour how the streaming is going. And when they see something like, let's say there's a dip in the 14-15-year-olds, then they do something to make sure that that dip doesn't go too low. And that sort of, if you understand, it's like this whole science. And of course, only the big labels have the resources to do something like that. So yes, there are a lot of things that you can do. We're talking about jazz or niche stuff. Obviously, as I said earlier, every music, every artist is unique in one way or the other. And of course, there are different ways to what you should be doing depending on what kind of music it is, what kind of an artist it is. Of course, a lot of the niche ones is where suddenly the live side is so much more important than what you do somewhere else. So the touring is in some cases like is way like number one in terms of promoting your music. But obviously there's a lot of things. I mean, even if it's niche music, there's always ways to do things. One sort of area which has been growing many years, more and more, where even some obscure track can actually make a lot of traction, is the sync side. Whether it's for films, whether it's for TV, whether it's for advertisement. And there's a lot of companies that just try to find the next strange thing that people are go, what the fuck is this? And use that effect on something like a film or whatever. And for that side of things, you can find those professionals usually in the publishing companies. They are the ones who usually have these different kinds of teams they do nothing else but find placements for different kinds of music, whatever the music is, whether it's free jazz or disco song or whatever. That's what they do all the time, just to get placements, sync deals in different plays. And that's actually, there's this huge UK artist in the 90s who made like a fortune on only on advertisement. He was doing, he had a couple of like a DJ electronic musician, but anyway, and that was his thing. All that his team was doing, sync deals, the placement deals. Another one is this Norwegian DJ Alan Walker, who just played London 2-3 weeks ago, who's had this, I think he was the first artist to have over 1 billion streams on Spotify 8, 9, 10 years ago. Currently, I mean, he still releases music, but his whole career is about music in games, in video games. It's all about that, nothing else. It's just, that's what they're concentrating. They don't care if they get radio or charts anywhere. They just do the video games, and he plays huge arenas everywhere, especially Asia, and that's his thing. And sort of the game, people are, I mean, obviously a lot of people are playing games in the world, so that's enough for his audience in a way.